Welcome to this video where we are going to be talking about how you can get free fertilizer. And by free fertilizer, I mean actually getting fertilizer without actually using the composting plant here. So if you want to know about the composting plant, this is the wrong video. This is about the actual process where we can get it from free by natural decomposition. I also want to give you a little bit of background of some of the hazards related to using distribution offices and the way that the waste management system works. Now, before I get into describing the setup here, I just want to talk about a very important concept, and that is the fact that you've got what you'd call the primary waste components. That is, if I can find them in here. Well, you've got fertilizer. You've got plastic waste here, metallic waste, and aluminium waste. So you've got certain elements in the game which are fixed. They operate almost in the same way as the normal resources such as steel and aluminium, and they can only change and be decomposed by actual processing. That also applies to construction waste, but there are a number of other types of waste which have their own dynamic capability, and one of them is biological waste. Now, biological waste left on its own, like here, will slowly decompose into fertilizer, and that is the basis of why I'm making this video. But there's also something else you do need to be aware of, and what I want to illustrate here is there's actual mixed waste. Now, the composition of mixed waste is incredibly variable in this game, and so don't assume that just because you see certain percentages that will always be the same. Now, the mixed waste in here is what I've got from the custom shed, and you can see it's made up of a number of percentages. A type of waste is actually listed inside of a breakdown. That means that mixed waste contains at least a certain percentage of what that item is. And just to give you a breakdown of this one here, it says construction waste greater than 0, but the next percentage up is 5%. So what that means is that this mixed waste has between 0 and 5% construction waste, between 10 and 15% aluminium scrap, between 10 and 15% plastic waste, between 10 and 15% biological waste, between 15 and 20% fertilizer, between 10 and 15% burnable waste, and then greater than 20% other. Well, when I say greater than 20, it's greater than 20%, less than 30%. And then if I go down to this one, which is hazardous waste, now it's very easy to think of hazardous waste as a single commodity, but this has exactly the same breakdown as the mixed waste. The only difference is it's got between 20 and 30% hazardous waste in there, which is the second line up from the bottom. But it's still got all the other constituent parts in it. And this is something you do need to be aware of when you're actually processing hazardous waste, because what will happen is if you put this into a hazardous waste processing plant, I think it removes the hazardous waste, but then chucks out everything else. But you've got a headache at the end of this video. Don't I can apologize for that, because trying to understand how the waste changes and what you can do with it. I will also say that I'm still trying to explore this, because the processes involved in what we're storing and certain things decomposing, like biological waste and items being processed, because there's also another type of waste that can appear after being put through the incinerator. You can also get it from a steel mill, is ash. Now, ash seems to decompose at its own rate, but there seems to be various caveats and restrictions applied to it. Another thing I did by accident was that if you suddenly start sending hazardous waste to this dump, especially from a technical office like this, because where the distribution offices will follow the strict rules of saying that this is mixed waste, so they won't take hazardous waste. In fact, just to give you a demo, it should, if I go there, remove that, put that on there, go there, there, and there. If I let the game run, you will find what should happen. These guys won't move. The reason they won't move is because the distribution office says that this is mixed waste, even though this is not set, because this contains mixed waste, it won't move. The difference with a technical office is that if the technical office was picking up waste here, unfortunately I can't generate it, but if a technical office was picking up hazardous waste, it would quite happily put hazardous waste into there. And then I think what happens then is this will then flip to becoming a hazardous waste dump with all the rest of the mixed waste being tied up. Hopefully that makes sense. I need to flip that back to biological, cancel you and put you back to for a reason which I will explain in a little while. Put that back down to 10%. So what is the setup here? What I've got is a dump here. It's got 84 tons of biological waste, and you can see because I've been letting this run, the biological waste is greater than 50%, and the fertilizer currently is between 30 and 40%. So you could probably say that the actual biological waste at the moment is about maybe 65 or something around there percent. You can't get the exact percentages, and I'll be completely honest, I wouldn't want to get complete percentages. And what we got here is a dump, and you can see that this dump is got greater than 50% biological waste and greater than 30% biological waste. And this truck is just very obligingly just picked up its first load of fertilizer. Because what actually happens is that if you set up this distribution office that will pick up, and what happens is that these trucks will only go to pick up fertilizer when that percentage gets greater than 30%. And that's what I'm demonstrating here, because this was 25%, because where I've been talking it's now gone to 30%. But you'll see that at the moment this distribution office here has not actually dispatched a truck yet. So the percentage is greater than 30%, but less than 40%. So just because you can look at a dump like this and it says between 15 and 20% fertilizer, if I was to flip these guys and put them on fertilizer, okay, just have to remove you and say I put you on down there. This is where the game's going to prove me wrong. Oh, no, I don't want that. I don't want you on a custom shed picking up fertilizer. I want you picking it up from there. Remove that. Yeah, I messed that up. Sorry about that, guys. So they're going to go and get one load. I can't do anything about it. But you can see now, while I was actually messing around there, this has now got above 30%. And this distribution office here has now sent out a truck. Unfortunately, I didn't catch it in the point of view because he's only just arrived, so I can still show it to you. Now, if you watch the panel with the loading of the vehicle like that, what you'll see is it will load very quickly to begin with. Then eventually it will just slow down, and eventually it should stabilize. What you'll see is that the amount of biological waste will decrease as this increases. Now you can see it's now settled down. You can see it's slowly ticking 0.1 of a ton over a period of time, and it seems to do about 0.1 of a ton kind of every few hours. In fact, see if we can actually get it to wait to the end of 9th of April and see if we can get a rate. I get to there, so it's 2.5 tons. Just let it run through another day and we'll see how that would give us an idea of how quickly this dump is turning the thing in. So it's, what was it, 2.5? So it's looking a bit like 3.5. So it's about a ton a day, which isn't spectacular. And of course, that's just purely observational. Now, just to show you here, these guys have gone back into the depot. And you can see that they're not going to this depot here to pick up the fertilizer. You've got to be over 30% or more than 30% for a truck to go and collect the fertilizer. And just to illustrate that, at the moment this is 30%, and this is why I was messing around with these guys. We'll just get rid of you again, put you on the custom shed, tell you to pick up biological waste. Where are you? And then we'll tell you to deliver the biological waste to here. And if I, the percentage here, we just have to give it 50 or 60% biological waste like that. Now you can see at the moment it's over 30. Now if you watch these trucks, what will happen is, I did try and do a test between how quickly these decompose, but I couldn't see a noticeable difference. But what you'll see now, if we hold it here, as these guys start to deliver, what will happen is, or what should happen, is this truck will stop. And we'll just see. It might not change until it gets down to, and there's now 25%. You see, it's just dropped to 25%. And what you'll find is these guys will now go back to the depot and no longer go here. For this to function, this percentage must be between just about between 30 and 40%. And what we'll do is we'll put a stop to these guys. Cancel you again. Remove all connections. I think I'm going to need you for something else. And of course we've got fertilizer down here, which we can't imported by accident, but that's okay. That is the basic structure of the way that you could get free fertilizer. But as you can see here, you need large quantities, and possibly if you were working with relatively small quantities, what you may have to do is have 2 dumps and then flip backwards and forwards. So fill a dump up, then let it decompose, and then flip to another dump. But that's a bit involved. So that's something you do need to be aware of. And one thing I did consider, and I started the test, but it's just way too long, is whether you could put biological waste into here, let it decompose, and would the farm pull the fertilizer into here. The problem with the test was, and if any of you guys have ever noticed this, is that the farm won't pull fertilizer unless the tractors go out and spread the fertilizer. And I spent a whole year and nothing happened, but I'm not sure if the percentage was high enough again, because so I effectively abandoned this test because I think this is something I'm going to have to test in game. The problem is that actually monitoring how these processes work do take a long time to run. The other thing it's also worth noting, I don't know if you guys can see it, is these dumps here are slowly decomposing. If I leave them up here, what you'll see, if you keep an eye on them, you can see this one's 25.11 and this one's 25.67. And what we've also got here is that this is slowly turning into fertilizer. You can see it's now got over 50% fertilizer and between 20 and 30% bio waste. So this is decomposing. This is what we're waiting for. And I don't know if you guys noticed that is actually ticked over with respect to the capacity of that dump. It's dropped down by 0.4. Anyway, just get back to what the subject of the video is going to be. You can see we're now still at over 20%, so we're still waiting for this to decompose. So what I'm doing is letting this dump decompose, just to let you see how this will turn to fertilizer and the consequence that will have on this distribution office. And you can see here now, this has got back to 30% because of the decomposition rate. So the trucks are back out now. Now another long-term test I've been looking at is whether this will stop when this actually goes. I don't think it will, because if this eventually turns into fertilizer, these guys will ship it all down to here. So we've now kind of got to a point in the video where I need to run some long-term tests, and that is to allow this to decompose down to completely to fertilizer. And I want to monitor who's got the least amount of waste. This guy. What I want to see is what happens as this guy turns into fertilizer, and whether these trucks will stop at a certain point and wait for the whole lot to be turned into fertilizer. But of course, I'm aware that's going to take a very long time. So what I'm going to do now is cut the video, and I'll be back when something happens. Okay guys, welcome back. I'll just give a bit of an update of where we are. This one is now down to, well, between 20 and 30% biological waste, and it's over 50% fertilizer. This one is over 30% fertilizer, 50% biological waste, and this one is exactly the same. So at the moment these are still running quite happily. This one is slowly decomposing, and what I've also done is I've just set a little test up here. What I've done is I put a single load of mixed waste in here, and we're just seeing if it's going to decompose and what is going to be left. Obviously, because this will get smaller and smaller over time, I'm just going to see whether it will get rid of everything or what's actually left. And this here, you can see this is now down to 24 tons, and the percentages don't seem to be shifting at the moment. And what I'll do is I'll come back once we get close enough with this to do the next part of the test. Okay, welcome back. Just another quick update. This is now down to between 10 and 20% in biological waste. Obviously that means that the majority of what's inside this dump is actually fertilizer. It's quite interesting monitoring these. The ratio seems to stay the same, 50 greater than 30. So obviously as the dump shrinks, because of course the waste is, because of course the fertilizer is being removed, the ratio stays the same. Also, the dump over here, percentages don't seem to be changing, even though it's I mean, it's only lost about 1 ton so far, but the percentages don't seem to be changing either. So, but of course that's going to take a little bit longer to actually come to a conclusive result. And the same applies to here, but these would take years to decompose. Anyway, let's get back to here. You can see we're just above 10%, still above 10% now. And I'll come back once it gets a lot closer so I can finish the test. There we are. I don't know if you guys spotted it, but we've now gone to 100% fertilizer. And you can see that the tag actually still says biological waste. Now, if I come and click on this and that, click on here, these guys to load biological waste and drop off here. Hot metal scrap, biological waste. Now, these don't always appear in the same place. And what you do is if I let it run, what you'll see is, so we're meant to be picking up from biological waste from the customs shed and dropping it off in here. You can see these guys won't move, but if I set these to pick up fertilizer and drop the fertilizer there, 100%, these will go here. It's going to take a little while to move the 84 tons, but I'm just going to let this run. And what should happen is that when this empties, these should start filling it up with biological waste again. Just to give you an update with what's going on here. We've got down to 4.9 tons. I'm currently doing a little bit of a test to try and see what the decomposition rate of this is. And on the 21st of June, the load in here was 5.45. So we're going to go to the 21st of July and see what happens. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm just going to cut the video because the loading in here is painful. Okay, welcome back. We're just about to empty this dump of fertilizer. Now, if you watch the distribution office here on the left hand side, as that empties out, what should happen is that these trucks should then start going to the border to bring in more bio waste. You just watch, it's just about to empty. You see straight away now, this is now empty, and these guys who've been sat here very, very patiently are now going to start filling this back up with bio waste. I'm not exactly sure what you're picking up, but now while this dump has been emptied, I was keeping an eye on this over here, and what happened a couple of times, I don't know if it's going to do it again, but when the amount of fertilizer gets over 40%, what happened is the distribution office sent out a second truck. So I'm not sure if it probably won't do it now. And I must admit, it's the first time I've seen that happen. And you can see now the bio waste stuff flow, and of course the process of turning this into fertilizer. You can see, because of course there's a certain amount of fertilizer mixed in the bio waste anyway when it's actually delivered from the border. Now if you're interested in this dump, you can see where we've got 4 tons left, and we've got a long way to go yet, and the percentages don't seem to want to change. Right guys, I think that's probably enough with respect to getting free fertilizer. Apologies if I've given you a headache, and because this is a very slow process, but it does show that you can get free fertilizer, which is something that you could do early in the game, but you're not going to get vast quantities, and plus it's going to take a little bit of organization, especially if you're using distribution offices. Obviously, if you've got these guys dumping biological waste into a dump, then you're okay. The problem's going to be gathering it all together. So I hope you found the video useful. Any comments, opinions, feel free to chuck it in the video description. Anyone who's interested in this dump here, what I'll do is I'll cut the video, and then I'll do a quick update when this dump actually empties, if it does empty. So until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming. If you've decided to stay for the conclusion of this test, all I can say is you're going to need a lot of patience to empty these dumps by letting them decay normally. Look at the top here, you can see we're now on the 13th of December 1971, which is nearly 18 months on from when I finished the tests related to the fertilizer. And if I click on here, the dump looks empty, but it's not. It's got 0.36 tons of waste left over, and you can see it's now comprised of what I would say is almost 99% aluminium scrap. And what I noticed by monitoring the progress is it's a kind of half-life decay is probably the best way to describe it. Just to give you an example of the rate of decay, is that on the 13th of December 1979 there was 1.79 tons of mixed waste left in this dump, and you can see, as you can see here, it's still got 3.96. That means in the course of a year 1.43 tons of waste decayed. And what that was what's called other waste. And what seems to happen is that the bio waste and let me just see in here, remind myself, the biological waste, the fertilizer and the burnable waste decays away first. Then you get the plastic and the construction waste, and then it gets down to the aluminium and the other waste. Now for some reason the biological waste has been stuck at just above 0 for months, so I don't know if that's a glitch. I'm assuming that if you kept this running for many, maybe another couple of years, you may finally get rid of the aluminium. And it seems, so it looks like the metallic scrap has got the slowest rate of decay. Now another interesting result is I've kept track of the decay in this dump. Now a year ago it was 18.7 tons. Now it's down to 9.63. So it took 1 year to decay 9.07 tons of mixed waste. And you can see here that the fertilizer has gone, the biological waste has gone to 0, and the burnable waste is slowly decaying. So it seems to decay in sequence. But more interestingly is the hazardous waste here. When I took the reading on the 13th of December 1970, it had 23.01 tons of waste, and now it's 18.79. So only 4.22 tons of hazardous waste is decayed, which is half the rate of this dump. More importantly, if you look here, you'll see that we've still got quite a lot of the various wastes there. So it's almost like if it's classified as hazardous waste, the rate of decay is even slower. Conclusion, guys, what I would suggest you do is that you might as well just get a truck like this, go here, and just once the waste gets down to a certain level, or if you obviously if you've got somewhere where you can scrap aluminium, maybe you've got advantage there. But when you think that that's probably 0.3 of a ton of aluminium scrap, whether that's got any real value, I don't know. But probably if you are using the dumps to get rid of a certain amount of waste, it might pay. You could possibly, when it gets down to a certain level, is just dump off the stuff by taking it to the border. But more interestingly, though, is the other waste, because I thought I'd be stuck with other waste because other waste is ill-defined, but the other waste may actually erode in time. So, and that leaves three ways that you could possibly get rid of other waste. One is that you stick it into a dump and just let it decay away slowly. Another one is I think you can actually burn it and then that turns it into ash, because I think other waste can be consumed in an incinerator. In fact, let's just have a quick check. Yeah, other waste has got an 80% processing efficiency. In fact, it's got besides plastic and burnables, it's got some of the highest percentages. So the other option would be to burn it, and of course the other one is that you do it would be just to send it to the border and sell it and get rid of it for good. Hopefully that will be useful in planning your waste disposal. Don't rely on dumps to get rid of it by slow decay. It's just not worth the effort. And so this is where I'm going to leave it, and until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.